Hello and welcome to Synchronicity Talk Radio for your mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Marie Benard, and you may be watching on youtube.com/spiritual show or listening on the radio at 101.9 FM CITR, broadcasting live on unceded Musqueam territory at the University of British Columbia campus in Vancouver. Or you might be listening online at CITR.ca, cosmicdimensions.com, empowerradio.com, or on the Co-Creator Network. And wherever you're catching this from, thank you so much for joining us. And today we have another, I always say it's a special broadcast, but it's true. Every guest is special and has something really important to share with the world. And I love the timing of this because it's always an important issue, but it's never been more important than it is in this moment. We're speaking with Christopher Papadopoulos. He is the author of Peace and Where to Find It, and the foreword is by Eckhart Tolle, which is really nice. Welcome to the show, Christopher.
Thank you very much for having me. It's wonderful to be here with you and everyone listening today.
Thank you. Did I say your name correctly?
Perfect. Yeah.
Perfect.
Papadopoulos. It's all good.
Papadopoulos. All right. Well, welcome to this show. And now you were on a spiritual journey from your teen years, it sounds like, and then you read The Power of Now, and that kind of changed things up. So I think that most people watching this or listening are probably new to your work. So can you tell us a little bit about what brought you to writing Peace and Where to Find It?
Absolutely, sure, Marie. Yes, it really was an interest since my teen years to just look at the world perhaps differently than other people do, and was always interested in esoteric things and in spiritual things. I was interested even in tarot card readings and things like that in my teen years. And then entering my 20s, those are university years and years to be more analytical and still having the utopian heart to desire to change the world for the better, but eventually realizing that it really does begin with us. And so I guess I rediscovered my deeper spiritual side in my late 20s, around my 28th birthday, having over the next year or two after that a few very profound spiritual experiences, we can say, that one cannot explain away so easily or scientifically. Like, for example, one of them was having the experience over a few hours of as if there were a spirit guide entering my body, for example, and then that feeling, it actually had a personality. And I was awake in my room, and I could hear my brothers in the other room. So I was very lucid, but I knew that this was going on. It was a very interesting feeling. And then over a period of those hours, later on, it seemed that first energy left and a much more refined energy entered. And it was a very strong feminine energy. And it felt like a perfect fit, like it was me or a higher aspect of me, we can say. And so because of those kinds of experiences, I kind of became a bit of a new age kid in the 90s and 1990s, and therefore in my 30s. Even having experiences like after deep meditations, basically waking up and being this egg of consciousness that would last for a period of minutes, where I had 360-degree sentience, and I just really couldn't explain it, but it was very powerful and very wonderful. So through the 90s, I was kind of chasing up, more blissful experiences until to the late 90s. I was getting to a point, and I was in my mid to late 30s at this time, that the chase was getting kind of fatiguing. Like, what's the point of all of this? And just chasing out more interesting and extraordinary bliss experiences, but coming to realize that I really had to focus more on what was going on in the here and now. And what happened was, as I explained in the book, I went on a retreat, a fasting retreat in the Bavarian Alps in the year 2000. And on the 16th day of this fasting retreat, basically, I had a long moment of clarity where I felt like I was being literally, energetically cradled in the arms of God. whatever you feel God is, it does not matter. There's something very sacred and divine. And I looked around the room, and everything in the room spoke back the word God to me. My body, the doorknob, the bed, the walls, everything just telepathically was saying, and had a depth to it. And looking at it and telepathically saying, God, everything is God. And this moment of clarity made me decide, upon returning from Bavaria, to explore more of what was here and now, as I mentioned in the book. And then I discovered Eckhart Tolle's book near the end of 2000. And I realized, yes, I've heard of certain principles like this before, but I really wasn't ready. And finally, I was ready. No, this is it. I have to really start focusing much more on the present moment. And it developed from there between the end of 2000 and 2003. My past first fell away, and then the future. And in the fall of 2003, I woke up one morning and entered the kitchen and just said to my mother, I'm not seeking anymore. And a deep, deep peace that has never left me um, sort of moved into the foreground of my experience. And it is very easy now for me to sort of be in the moment.
Hmm. Well, it's nice to hear that it's easy for you. I I imagine, I know for me, I mean, I've been on this path for quite some time as well, and I know a lot of viewers and listeners have, and I don't think that's the norm. I mean, especially judging by the ongoing world events. Of course, we hear about it when it's something in the Western world, like in Paris, but I'm really, this fighting and lack of consciousness and connection has never stopped. It's been an ongoing issue. So you mentioned that you weren't ready. What do you think it takes for someone to be ready?
Very good question. And part of it is this feeling of I've had enough. Really deciding that's it. Because if you come to a point when you really, that's it, I'm tired of what I'm doing, I really now will be able to find the concentration and focus and earnestness to do something else. Otherwise, we are still kind of dabbling in other things we've done, indulging in certain habits we know maybe we shouldn't be indulging in. And there's just this lack of commitment, and it kind of slows us down. Um, I mean, some teachers will say you have to be absolutely sick of where you are in your life and feel like utterly hopeless before you move on. And I'm not 100% certain that you have to be that extremely fed up, but I do believe to some degree you have to be kind of tired, really tired of where you are, and that it gives you a conviction and a strength as opposed to a weakness inside. It doesn't weaken you, it gives you strength that that's it, I've had enough. It really is enough. No more. I'm going to do this no matter what happens, no matter what the situation, no more excuses. I'm going to walk my walk. And that's one of the reasons I wrote the book is a lot of us on the spiritual path, we kind of think we're walking our walk, and we're trying, and it's not easy. But I realized for myself over those years when I started reading Eckhart's book, I was still in the first year or so enjoying reading it and hearing and listening to all of this talk, and wasn't really walking my walk until 2000, later into 2001. I decided, as I mentioned to others, I called myself onto the carpet, so to speak, and decided that's it, enough. This is enough. I'm going to practice these techniques. I'm going to be very committed. And for me, the key was a deep body awareness, absolutely an absolute deep body awareness to help me stay in the present moment. And that really made a difference. Because a lot of us, we like to go to retreats and we like the buzz and the high. We enjoy the transmission buzz from a satsang. Um, we do some things, but I just noticed that I was also doing what other people were doing. I'd meditate maybe a few times, but I'd let myself convince myself that, okay, I'd really had meditated all week or all month, when really, if I really honestly looked, I really hadn't done as much as I thought I had. And so um, I was really earnest in my practice for a good 2 years, and it made a big difference.
Thank you. Well, we are speaking with Christopher Papadopoulos, and he is the author of Peace and Where to Find It. And spoiler alert, it's all around you, right?
Absolutely. And that is one of the major reasons I wrote the book. I mean, there are so many wonderful teachers. You go to any bookstore, Marie, and Now there's just walls full of extraordinary, insightful teachings, inspiring, beautiful, poetic even now. And yet a lot of people are still having trouble with some basic concepts. And I say that because I did too. And one of them was that um, peace, which we're looking for, which one of the reasons we want to awaken or want to change the world. We're looking for a world peace. We're looking for inner peace, but it's still really conceptual for us. It's still a bumper sticker or, a victory sign, um, or it's a deal we have to broker between nations. And in fact, people need to shift their awareness, and I'm hoping the book will do that, that whoever you are now, wherever you are now, the space you are in is saturated with peace. Your body is saturated with peace. And the reason we don't have peace in our personal lives and we don't have peace in the world is not because it's not here. It is here. We're looking for it. It is waiting for us. It is waiting for us to notice it. And the problem is not because of such and such person or me and my problems. It's simply we have an incomplete experience of ourselves. If we went deeper to feel and experience it, just the very act of experiencing it activates it and it stays with us. So this is why I thought it was really important to help people shift their understanding of what peace is and what it's not. And the key, of course, once again, is it ties into going into the body and finding it there. And of course, the link is the present moment. And that's the tie-in with Eckhart Tolle's teachings and many other teachings about spiritual awakening, because the body and its sensations are always here now. And so instead of trying to not be lost in our thoughts and resist our ego and fight against this and try to focus on that, just start focusing deeply into your body and let your body take care of your presence, because your body is always here, even though we are often elsewhere lost in thought. We have to go deep into our body awareness, and that really starts making a difference in our presence practice and peace cultivation.
Christopher, it's funny that you say that peace is all around us, waiting for us to pay attention. But I read in your book that they did a study, and people would rather give themselves electric shock. They'd rather zap themselves than be present and alone with themselves for 5 minutes.
Absolutely, and this is how serious the egoic condition problem is on the planet, collectively and individually. We like to think that um, we can be a person who has, a very sunny disposition, and oh, I don't really have to do much more. I'm doing fine, and that's fine. Wherever you are is where you are. But the truth is, if you just slightly change people's, living situation or wherever they are, whatever they're doing, and get them to be alone with themselves, they immediately want to fill themselves up with distraction. And it is that bad. That's how serious the egoic condition is. That's how serious our fears are of allowing the monologue in the head, our personal narrative, our me and my story character, to even cease speaking for even a few moments. We're scared of that because we don't know what's on the other side, because we're so convinced that we are this voice in the head that pretends to be us. What would happen if that voice stopped? Wouldn't that mean that I cease to exist? And so the deeper we go into our body, the deeper we feel the peace of the present moment, the more confidence we have that, hey, when our mind gets quiet, someone, I am still here. And who is this I? It's not the thinker. It's not this me character we've created and we now project out into the world. So we develop a confidence that one can rest in this attention, rest in this pure awareness, and that we still exist. And we can eventually operate more from that level of awareness, even in terms of day-to-day things.
Christopher, something that I've observed, and I'm sure it's pretty obvious to everyone, but we're in a time now where we have access to more information in a day than many people had in a lifetime 100 years ago. And yet it seems like we're becoming less conscious. Like even people like myself who are making a concerted effort to be conscious, I am on my smartphone, I'm on the computer. I'm like, I have to finish reading Peace and Where to Find It. Oh, but I got to check Facebook 25 times first. So what do people do? I mean, if I turn off my devices, it's stressful. It's like I'm
Yeah.
walking around naked if I forget my phone.
I'm sorry. It's so true. I'm sorry. And it's so true for so many people. Just to let people know a little insight into my personal life. Yeah, I don't walk around with a cell phone or mobile phone, or I do so as little as possible. I try to become efficient with my use of internet, to limit the amount of times I have to check during the day, whatnot, because it does pull your attention completely in. And so, um, this is true what you're saying. It has become surprisingly more difficult. I suppose 15, 20 years ago, when I was doing retreats, or even 10 years ago, or probably 15 years ago or more now, um, there were, you go to retreat and there would be, okay, this noble silence, right? And I still use that as well. And back then, noble silence was, okay, why don't you have to use a phone that's, connected to a wall somewhere? I turn off the TV, I turn off the radio. But now we are completely connected all the time. And it does seem, in one sense, Marie, that a lot of people have taken a step backward in their level of awareness. There is, there will be eventually an awareness that there's a payoff to this new global brain we're creating, this new interconnectedness. It's an important layer that's being developed, um, socially speaking, in terms of the external aspect of our lives and the way we connect and the way our ego can no longer fool us that everyone's lives are clearly better than mine, or those people 2,000 miles away, they're alien, they're animals to me. We still have these issues, and yet we can see through Facebook and social media, through its instantaneous connection, that people really are very much the same wherever we are. And so this takes away some of the ammunition of the ego to make us afraid and make us feel not connected. So it's a good thing of the beginnings of social media, and we still really are in the infancy of what the potential for social media and interconnectivity really can be. But that said, yes, my work is cut out for me, as are many other people, and you too, in terms of getting people to let go of their technology, because they get completely lost in it and they don't feel their bodies. And when you don't feel your body, you're much more prone to reactivity, and that will engage your mind even more, and engage your emotional pain body as well too. So long story short, I absolutely agree, Marie. I agree with what you're saying.
Okay, I'm a junkie for technology. It's like, really, yeah. I mean, I can feel, and I'll feel the pain and the discomfort, speaking of your body, in my neck and my back because I'm hunched over. And so I'll try and sit up,
Right.
and then I'll feel it again. Sorry, it's the cold.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
But yeah, but it sounds like you're saying that this technology, the internet, and everything is really just a stepping stone.
Yes, yeah, and let me just step in just for a second there. Sorry,
Sorry.
sorry for cutting in on the train of your thought, but we can use, and you are doing it with this program, Marie. So I applaud you for this. And we all can use these tools we use every day as tools for presence and tools for peace, because there are plenty of free mindfulness apps that we can download from the App Store or whatever one, would send little chimes and bells and buzzers, or even little messages to remind us to breathe during the day. Remind ourselves, where am I? Am I here? Can you feel your body? Relax the unnecessary tension in your body, because, as I say in the book, unnecessary tension is fuel for the mind to continue chattering, and that keeps us lost uh, in thought and in the abstract realm and out of the present moment, which is really the source of our suffering, individually and globally. So we can turn these things to some extent into tools for presence, but yes, we do have to also put them down more often.
All right. Sorry.
It's okay,
Um,
Marie. It's okay.
I may have to step away for a moment. It's interesting because yesterday I was doing the show
Yes.
and I started coughing and I said, sorry, I'm sick. But then today, while I was back to peace in the present moment, I'm trying really hard not to cough right now. So I was kind of mindful of that statement, I am sick. And so I tried to say, well, my body is fighting off a cold virus. I don't know how you would say it, but it's interesting how in Peace and Where to Find It, you speak about how we identify with our thoughts, we identify with our conditions in life, or our past trauma, abuse, addiction, whatever. People will say, I'm an addict, I'm a survivor of sexual abuse, I'm sick with a cold. Why is that a problem?
Good question. It is true, for convenience we say, certain phrases or certain things, and I still do so as well, because part of communication obviously is just to give someone else an impression or a general idea of our current situation. And so we generally use the colloquialisms and the vocabulary and the lexicon of the people around us. But if we are to be more precise and more specific, yes, I mean, to say I am sick, you're basically turning something temporary into a passing phenomenon in your body into part of your identity. And we do this by turning things that are temporary, that could practically be verbs, into nouns, which are much more permanent. And so it'd be like, I am experiencing, an illness right now, or temporarily, is different than I am sick, which is almost like saying I am this sickness incarnate, and it's very much more fixed. So I agree, we have this habit. We do it with everything. I have such and such disease, and as opposed to I know it's a very sensitive subject. So forgive me if I'm to some of those listening, if it offends you. There's no intent when we say that. If someone says I have cancer, as opposed to I am cancering, and it may be a subtle difference, but one is almost like I am the cancer, as opposed to I am experiencing, hopefully will be, this temporary condition. Although, of course, ultimately, all things in the world of form are temporary conditions. So it's a habit we have, again, because of the egoic mind's interpretation of reality. It wants it to be permanent. The ego itself is always seeking immortality, and defines itself in these permanent, with these definitive statements, as if it's a permanent condition, when in fact all of this is transitory.
Interesting. We talk about, I've actually mentioned on this show before, it's a little bit of a dark opinion, but I kind of see humanity as it is in its current behavioral state as a cancer on this planet. It's really it's behaving, we as a species are behaving like a disease.
Interesting.
So I'm curious to hear your opinion on that.
Well, there are parallels. Obviously, we are an organism like viruses and bacteria and all kinds of animals and trees and plants, organisms that do wish to survive. And when we remain at the level of awareness of just survival, we will take on the characteristics that are more parasitic, or more viral. For example, that we even the virus eats the host. In our case, the virus devours the host. In this case, humanity devours the planet and kills the host off. It kills itself off in doing so. This again happens because of the egoic condition, because the egoic condition basically is a dysfunctional condition. By identifying with the voice in the head, we are not connected to our deeper peace. We do not feel a sense of sacredness and interconnection. This produces discomfort and suffering in the body and the way we perceive the world, in terms of fear, paranoia, competition, violence, cruelty. So, and of course, we are being lost in thought, and because we identify with thought, our thinking is compulsive. So it produces a mental dysfunction. Essentially, the planet, as Eckhart Tolle says, to some degree, we are all, or most of us are, to some degree, insane, if only mildly insane, because the insanity of this incessant thinker that tortures us and makes us misperceive the world. This dysfunction makes us recede, let's say, to the more primitive parts of the brain. The survival parts of the brain end up dominating our higher functions. Our higher functions, which are the heart and maybe the prefrontal lobe, let us say, are suppressed and are at the service of the survival brain, and so we take on the characteristics of the more primitive aspects of living organisms. And so to transcend that is what we're here to do, to behave with the deeper truth and awareness that we are all interconnected, all things are sacred, and not to behave like a so-called virus on the planet.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
So
a
there's a
little bit
way out.
morbid sometimes.
Morbid's fine as long as you know, Marie, there is an answer. There's an answer. There's a
Awesome.
way
Well,
out.
we are speaking right now with Christopher Papadopoulos. He is the author of Peace and Where to Find It. And you can go to his website, urpeace.org, and you can follow him on Twitter at urpeace. Although being not very connected to social media, you don't update your Twitter very often.
No, I'm going to have to start doing that. I have very, very few followers and things, and I'm just starting out. And but I would like to, because again, whether it's Facebook, I do have a page, UR Peace, on Facebook as well. Um, I want to start using technology more, again, as tools for presence. And so as the word gets out about the book and people are interested in spending time with me online, even if it's just following some of my tweets, I'd be more than happy to help them with their presence in the virtual world of the internet.
Okay, awesome. Again, so that's urpeace.org or urpeace all over the place. Now, we've been talking about peace a lot, and we're basically just philosophizing. This whole interview is just us exchanging and sharing our thoughts about peace. So what's the difference between thinking nice, peaceful thoughts and actually being peace?
Good question. Whatever we think of focuses our attention on fewer things, especially if these things are pointing towards our formless nature. When we are focusing on what we're going to have for dinner or what we're doing later on, we're focusing on other forms, and then there are other things. Well, what if this happens, and what do I have to buy at the store, and what if that happens later? We focus on forms, we end up focusing on many other forms, and it's hard to concentrate and maintain what we can call a single point of focus. But when we focus on the formless, on presence, on the experience of the life force, the energy field of the body, on peace, these things have a tendency to relax the body, open up the heart, and they begin the concentration process of reducing the amount of things we focus on. And when we do that, we begin to notice that the mind quiets down, and we also begin to feel better. And that's a starting point. But just imagining peace, which I think is a wonderful initiative. I know Yoko Ono is very big about that, and a lot of peace activists. Focusing our attention, our mental attention on imagining peace is a very good start. It is a platform for something deeper, but it is temporary, because whenever we use our thoughts, we are also perpetuating the thinker that dominates us in so many other ways and manipulates us and creates the conditions of suffering for ourselves personally and globally. So it's not enough to engage in positive thinking or engage in just imagining peace, because it does keep this egoic voice in the head in a position of power over us. The mind continues to be engaged. So we drop out of our thoughts, even the peaceful ones. We can start with those, and eventually we drop out of our thoughts and get into our body, and we begin to really deeply just feel what's there and accept what's there without judgment or reactivity, or as little as possible. And this begins to help us quiet the mind automatically, and then we will begin to feel the natural presence and peace that is always here. And that is the key difference, and it makes all the difference, because otherwise, whatever we visualize or imagine will come and go, because in fact, the thinking mind doesn't like to engage these positive thoughts so much. It really loves the negativity, because the egoic thinker, this voice in the head, is very tied to what Eckhart Tolle calls this pain body. And this pain body can't feed on peace. It can't feed on positive thinking. So it's got to pull you sooner or later into the victim story, into the suffering, to feed on the negativity in your life or the world around you. And so it pulls your thoughts that way as well. And that's why sooner or later we always end up back to the negative, and that creates the discomfort and the suffering. So we have to, maybe we can start with something positive in our heads and then quickly drop into our body, and then that overrides the pain body's tendency and the mind's tendency to feed on the negativity which it needs to survive.
Wow, we were just talking a few minutes ago about how when I guess when any organism is just in survival mode, when we as humans are only in survival mode, we kind of become parasitic on the planet. And it's almost like our ego and our pain body are like that, because it made, when you were talking about how it needs negativity to be fed, I was thinking about candida, how it like needs sugar, and then you eat sugar and then it flourishes in your body and creates all these problems. So the pain body is almost like having a candida infection.
That's a very interesting parallel. It's true. But it makes perfect sense that there are parallels. What sort of the as above, so below, as within, so without. And so there obviously would be reflections in the external world in terms of physical conditions that mimic, those same process at the energetic level. So it makes sense. It's a very interesting parallel, Marie.
And it is like, just like a sugar addiction, you can be addicted to that negativity, because really, like, I try to be, a nice person overall. I really do make an effort. But when I hear something, like sometimes there'll be gossip as an example, and I'll be like, no, I don't want to take part in gossip, but I'm kind of like, oh, I gotta just hear it, because you gotta know the dirt, or something negative happens, and rather than I guess swallowing it probably isn't the best way to deal with it, but rather than not sharing it, I find myself telling my best friend and then posting about it on Facebook. What do I do when someone's like this to me? And blah, 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 blah. And it just feeds into the energy, and then people start commenting, and it gets bigger and bigger and takes on more power before I even realize, ugh, this feels yucky.
That's a good point. A few things that you mentioned. One is that I'm reminded of what a lot of monks around the world do, or nuns, just putting hoods over their heads and walking with their heads down, right, to not be distracted. Or in that famous movie, The Matrix, a lot of the people that are aware of the Matrix, they put sunglasses on to not be so caught up in the world of form that does entice us and attract us and pull us in in so many ways. As well, you mentioned addiction, and I do go into a little discussion on addictions in the book, that the source of all addictions really is addiction to thought, is the addiction upon which all other addictions, including biochemical addictions, are based. And so when we are finding peace inside, and therefore we are inhabiting the present moment deeply, we are disconnecting from our association with our thought processes and this identity that we carry around. We are no longer attached to the voice in the head, and this voice in the head becomes much more quiet. And so we don't have this addiction to thought and reactivity that we do when we are just completely unaware and completely lost in it. And one will also notice that there's much less pull towards any other physical habits in the world in terms of addiction. Now, but the biochemical component of addiction can last a while, the way like you pull a fan out of the wall and it's still, the fan blades still rotate for a while. But if you go to the source of the addiction, of any addiction, you will find that the source is this addiction to thought, or this compulsive thinking activity, because we identify with the voice in the head, the me and my story character that's made up of thoughts. So there's an answer there as well, too. There's good news, in other words, in that subject, in that area as well.
And with some people, I know for myself, like I have a very active mind. It's hard to go to sleep. It's difficult to shut off my mind. Other people are not as, I don't know the word, but they don't have as many thoughts going through their mind so quickly. So I'm just wondering where can we start for someone who is a chronic thinker, addicted, really entrenched in that constant hum in their head? What's the first thing to calm them down?
Good. First thing I just mentioned is that the more body awareness that we do, the calmer we become, and the more we begin to trust living in the world without the da in the head, because we have to question, why is it? It's not just that we are quick thinkers, which I completely relate to, and I understand what you're saying, but it's because we also really believe this is not only who we are, but we rely on this to function, to analyze, to really understand the world and understand ourselves. The peace that we feel inside our bodies by going into our bodies and beginning to feel it, and I can actually, take the audience through a little bit soon, is not just an energy or some inert, vague feeling. This peace is primordial intelligence. It is wisdom. It is creativity. Um, and so the more you activate this dormant peace, this ever-present peace within you, and you begin to perceive it around you, it's as if you are also activating the wisdom of the universe and what is beyond the universe. And so you begin to trust that to inform your thinking, so you don't need to have the rapid thinking processes and to quickly interpret and analyze whatever is happening in the world. So it really is a process of developing trust with this new way of living in the world. So, but it does begin with, from my perspective, always the body, because if it's all about presence, Marie, the body is always here in the present moment. And if we really are not deeply aware of it, we are saying no to the present moment because we're saying no to our bodies. So saying yes to the present moment is not just saying yes to your neighbor doing something irritating, or saying yes to your worries, or saying, yes and accepting your surroundings. It's also about accepting your body, because your body is the primary geography you were born with in this world. As I mentioned in the book, you weren't born as a mountain, Marie, and neither was I. You weren't born as the sky, and neither was I, or a tree. You were born as this human body. It's your primary physical landscape, and it goes largely unexplored. This is the thing, we go to the doctor and we go, you with the white lab coat, you tell me what's wrong with this thing here, this body I've had all my life. Now, of course, going to the doctor can be a very useful and important thing, but just the notion that we have to go to some other human being to tell us about our bodies goes to show you on our planet just how unfamiliar we are with our own deeper experience. And so that's why we really have to go into our bodies. And the easiest way is to begin with relaxing the muscles in the body and becoming aware of our breath, and begin to feel the aliveness. There's always felt a vibrant aliveness in the body, but we're generally numb to it because when we're lost in thought, we can't feel our feet. We can't feel what we're sitting upon. And this is an indication of our disconnection from the here and now.
Well, we are speaking right now with Christopher Papadopoulos, and he is the author of Peace and Where to Find It. You can go to his website, yourpeace.org, or follow him on Twitter, yourpeace. And maybe Christopher mentioned taking us through a little exercise, so perhaps we could do that in a moment. I just want to say, if I feel like I'm going to cough, I'll take off. So don't think I'm upset or anything if the chair is empty.
No, it's okay. It's okay, dear. No problem. Okay. So the very first things that we can do anywhere, whether we're lying down preparing to go to sleep, or whether we're just already relaxed and preparing to leave our bed in the morning, um, they're great times to actually relax and meditate and not even worry if you fall asleep. But we can do this in our office, in a chair. We can do this. Many of these exercises that were designed in the book were designed for people that have no time at all. And so it was about coming to realize just how much free time we have every day. And I think I just read a study that it's shocking that even the so-called busiest people actually have an enormous amount of free time every day, but they're not aware of it. So we can even just, waiting for a text message, or waiting for the commercials on your favorite show to finish, and you're just muting it, and mute the television and wait for your commercial to end. You can start by noticing that your torso is always expanding and contracting as we speak. Everyone has been listening to us speak, Marie, And this whole time, our body's been moving because of respiration. And this has been happening since the moment you were born, Marie, and will continue to happen for the rest of your life. This simple movement of the body is something we can anchor our attention onto. You feel the expansion and contraction of your torso, the rib cage, the abdomen, maybe even the back pressing into your chair with every breath. The mind has more important things to do, but the truth is, Marie, just feeling the movement of your body that is always going on is perhaps the most important thing you can ever do, much more important than any wonderful thought that you have. And we can deepen our awareness of movement and breath by noticing something also that we probably haven't noticed before. That when we inhale, the air is slightly cooler in our nostrils, throat, and lungs than when we exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Keep inhaling and exhaling, noticing the difference in temperature. Anchor your attention on the difference in temperature between your inhales and exhales. You can feel this in your nose, throat, and upper chest. These are natural points of focus in the body that help us relax and help us quiet the mind. At least reduce the number of thoughts that we're having, and the number of urges we have to distract or do something else. This engages the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps us relax and reduce the level of stress in the body, among many other positive things like building and boosting the immune system and helping both hemispheres of the brain connect, helping us push ourselves out of the survival brain systems where we misperceive reality as the enemy, as the other, as different, as a threat. So we notice the expansion and contraction of the torso. We feel the temperature of our inhales and exhales. And now we can notice our jaw or our shoulders. Relax our jaw, relax the shoulders, let them come down a bit. We'll relax the jaw and we let the shoulders sink. And we can also notice with every inhale if there's any tightness in the solar plexus area, the diaphragm area, where the ribs meet the abdomen. We can see if we can relax that area too. We're holding any unnecessary tension in our solar plexus diaphragm area. We relax those muscles and we notice. We can take a deep breath that expands the abdomen below the navel. Nice, full, deep breath. And the reason we want to relax the diaphragm area and the shoulders and the jaw is because these are areas that are typically tense. And a yawn is wonderful, by the way. It's a technique that I also discuss in the book. These areas are gates for the heart. And so that little yawn was actually helping you expand your heart area even more. Because as I mentioned in the book, when we relax the heart area, wonderful, there you go, wonderful. When we relax the heart area, the rest of the body follows. And the more deeply relaxed the body is, the more deeply surrendered it is to the now. It is easier for us to deepen our presence and begin just to feel the beginnings of the permanent transcendent peace that is always here. So we relax those muscles that act in the jaw and the shoulders and solar plexus that act as gates that were designed to protect the heart, but in the end produce too much shielding around the heart, and we lose our connection to all things and to our deeper self. And then we can notice tension in the rest of the body, in our hands, in our feet, in our thighs. And I'm talking unnecessary tension. For example, right now, Marie, you need just basic muscles to stay sitting up in that chair. But you may notice that if your toes are curled or the ankles are tight, that is unnecessary tension, as in the jaw or the shoulders. You don't need that tension just to sit down right now. And that is the tension that the mind uses as fuel to keep chattering and keep us lost in the virtual realm of thought, of mind stuff, and keep us away from the real, the actual of the present moment. So we relax the other parts of our body. You can let the chair take all of your weight, or if you're lying down, let the floor or the mattress take all of your weight and just sink into it. This is the beginning of true surrender. They talk of surrender so much in the spiritual path, acceptance and surrender. And we don't even know how to surrender to the floor or the chair we're sitting on. And when we can feel the movement in our torso and feel the temperature of our inhales and exhales, and notice the deeper relaxation of our body. When we're out in the everyday world, we can also notice just the feeling of contact. What does it feel like? What part of your body is making contact with the chair? Your hair is probably always hanging down onto your shoulders. Do you feel it anymore? Can you feel the curls of your hair on your collarbone right now? Can you feel the wires of the headset touching your neck or your ears? Can you feel your glasses anymore? You become more sensitive. Can you feel the shirt you're wearing? And if we're at the office, we can feel the desk we're leaning on. We can feel the shoes making contact with the carpet. We can feel the pen in our hands or our mobile phone. This is the beginning of mindfulness with a mobile phone. Feel it in your hand, feel the temperature, feel the texture of you sliding your fingers across as opposed to just swiping to get somewhere else on the internet. Awareness of the sensations of the present moment. And then we can go deeper. With more practice, Marie, we can begin to feel this vibrant aliveness that's always there inside the body. We begin to ask ourselves, well, what's the difference between, can I tell if my feet are alive compared to the floor that they're resting upon? What's alive and what's not? Can you feel aliveness? You begin to feel with the sensations inside the body and begin to go beyond that and feel a deeper life force that acts as a bridge between the material world and the unmanifest, let's call it, pure awareness. So these are the steps we can take every day. And in fact, these techniques that I've mentioned to you can actually be done in about 30 seconds when you get really good, and almost in one complete uniform action. You can look at me now and I'll show you how I would do it if I were outside somewhere. I would just begin with the breath and the movement. Relax the muscles. Now I'm feeling the aliveness in the body, deep within. And everything that's making contact with my body without judgment or reaction, it just is the way it is. And the mind gets very quiet. And the peace that is here always. emerges. I recommend practicing this before falling asleep while you're lying down and before getting out of bed in the morning, when it's actually easier to feel the life force in the body because you've been, in a sense, connected with it during dreamless sleep. And you begin with eyes closed often. And then eventually, you're able to feel your body, the aliveness within, with your eyes open and walking around during the day. And so your whole life becomes a meditation. Because eventually, what we do at the retreat, what we do on the yoga mat or on the cushion in the morning and in the evening, eventually has to be taken into the heart of our day, which is the realm of the ego. Basically, the ego says, "I'll let you do your airy, fairy, fluffy stuff there in the morning and in the evenings, but the real important things in my life, my job, cooking food and family and career and relationships, that's my domain. You keep that other stuff to the peripheries of our life and we'll be just fine." But eventually we have to go into the places that the ego dominates. And eventually we realize that we can trust this deeper awareness to manage many things that we do during the day. And this helps diminish the ego more rapidly. It's often called mindfulness practice. And there are variations on that. But if we don't do that, then great, we are meditating 1 or 2 hours a day, which would be actually quite impressive. But then that leaves the ego in control for how many more hours of the day. And so eventually we have to bring this awareness, this body awareness, this presence that we cultivate lying down or on the cushion and bring it into the heart of our day.
Yeah, before we started the show, there was some technical difficulties, and I mentioned to you how I felt myself. I was like, "Oh, great, here we go," you know. And then I thought, "No, it's okay. Nobody's gonna die if we start late. And I just started breathing, and I calmed down immediately, rather than if I had let myself get worked up, I would have been all stressed out. I probably would have been short with you. I wouldn't have been able to think clearly, and it would have been really uncomfortable and no fun. And instead of feeding into that negativity, feeding my ego by allowing myself to get worked up about something that my mind wanted to think matters, I just was like, no, just breathe. It's okay.
It really does make a difference, and that is one of the things we start doing. Well, just breathe, just breathe. Wonderful. But of course, that's also very mental, and that's why, okay, feel the temperature of your breath, feel the movement of your body. That really gets us out of the idea of I have to meditate now or I have to breathe now, which allows the ego to kind of even manage our spiritual activities, let's say, and really feel the physical sensations that can only happen in the present moment. So the more deeply you feel your body, the more deeply you're feeling and anchoring yourself to the now. So it's no longer just this abstract concept that we're talking about. And it seems so simple, but that's why, because the mind loves things to chew on, so things that are complex and interesting, at least interesting to the mind. And it finds its feeling physical sensations quite dull. But you keep doing it, and the payoff is it really does calm us down. It makes us feel much better. We get much better sleeps as well. We're less reactive during the day. It's life transforming, really is. I'm living proof. I'm nobody special. I'm living proof that this is everyone's birthright. We are meant to do this, and so I want to reassure everyone out there: it is not impossible. It is our birthright to experience deeper presence and deeper peace. Um, and it takes a little more practice and a little more focus on body awareness and the present moment than all the things we do during the day. And eventually, we're more mindful. We can still do those things. I still enjoy things. I still watch hockey games. I still do the regular things everyone does, but I don't get fully caught up anymore with what's going on. I always feel part of me anchored in the here and now, anchored in my body, and that makes all the difference.
Thank you so much, Christopher. Again, we've been speaking with Christopher Papadopoulos. He's the author of Peace and Where to Find It, and you can find him at urpeace.org or on Twitter at urpeace or Facebook urpeace. And it's time to wrap up the show in just a moment. So, Christopher, I'm wondering if there's anything that you want to leave us with.
Yes. Basically, very simply, once again, to reassure everyone, especially during these difficult times, that the answer to world peace is not out there in just deals and treaties and ceasefires. Although these things are good, peace is already everywhere around you. When you look on TV and see scenes that are upsetting, there is peace everywhere and within those people and everywhere around them. There is peace saturating the room you're in now. You are peace itself. Use that knowledge to reassure you and to inspire you to go within and find it, because you will not experience your own true nature, which is peace, unless you go within and activate it. It's waiting for you. It's waiting for all of us. So thank you very much for spending time with me and with us today.
Thank you so much. And so you can also find more exercises in Peace and Where to Find It. And you can get this book through namastepublishing.com, on amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. You can probably find it in your local bookstore. And if not, you can request it there. Anywhere else? Should they purchase it from your site?
Yeah, I have at urpeace.org. I have, of course, the links to Amazon and Barnes and Noble. I think so. Amazon at least, because the new website is going to be changed and be updated in a few weeks, and they'll have all of the links. But yes, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Indigo in Canada, you can find, and there are local bookstores that have it as well. Yes.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. And thank you for listening, for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, please like this video, share it, subscribe to this channel. And if you're listening on CITR or anywhere else online, you can always download the podcast as well. And remember, that you are peace. Thanks for watching. Lots of love. Namaste.